Good afternoon, folks. I hope you are having a very good one. We are on Tuesday. We are slowly making our way through the week. If you like what I do, the subscribe button is down below. Please also click the notification bell if you want to know what I do from now on, because YouTube will not show you my content unless you click that notification bell. Love you all very much. Hope you're all having a very stress-free week. We are on our way to Christmas, as the people over the road have no doubt reminded me with their putting up their Christmas lights on the 1st of November. Bar humbug. So, let's get into some more hobby nightmares, shall we? One of these I've already read. It is very, very, very heavy, so I'll try and give that guy some really cool advice as we're going through it. But let's get into it before we do any further ado. So, R says, a funny story, dear Exile. A funny story from when I was key time sales staff at a games workshop. It is a long time ago, in the early 2000s, around the time of 3rd edition 40k. I was working at the store and doing some intro games, painting lessons and sales. General meet and greet in the old fashion of Games Workshop. A young regular had come in and bought some models, metal on the blister pack style, and had asked if we would help him paint them for him, or pin them for him. I obliged, sat him at the painting table, showing him how to use the drill and paper clips to pin arms to the body. I forget what the model was now. Then it came to gluing said model into the old style slotter base. There's the ones where you slot them in at the bottom of the base. I had walked away at this point to check a customer at the till. Yep, I mean, to be expected, it's an easier part of the build. Out of the corner of my eye, I could see what the kid was doing, but it didn't register until it was too late. He had taken the model in one hand and put the slotter base on the model, and then proceeded to pour copious amounts of superglue into the slot, trying to fill said base with glue to stick it. He never noticed the glue dribbling out of the model over his own arm and gluing his elbow to the painting table. Luckily, the store manager came over and, using some salt water, dissolved the glue enough to release his arm. A short story, I know, but it's always stuck with me all this time. Yeah, I've had a few like that. The reason why I read that one out, I know it's very short, because I've got a few tales of my own that are like that. I once had a kid come into the Games Workshop store and literally had loads of super glue on his hands as he was gluing these models together. But he hadn't realised that it had actually gone. It had gone past his fingers, and it dried on his fingers, so he was okay on his fingers. But it had gone to pool in the centre of his hands, you know? So all of his friends are like, you know, they can see this happening, and boys being boys, they are trying to get him to clap his hands without telling him to clap his hands. And I let this go, because I'm like, I kind of want to see where this goes. I know that's really irresponsible of me, but it was quite entertaining whilst I was doing other things. And in the end, this kid went, oh, you know, fine, clapped his hands together, and then tried to get them apart. And his friends are just, like, bawling with laughter, just, like, creasing up on the floor. He literally cannot get his hands apart. He's laughing at the start, and then he starts getting quite upset that he's like, oh my god, I might be stuck like this. And yeah, similar thing, salt water between the hands, it was fine. I always keep it on hand. Few sachets of salt. Every Games Workshop manager does this. A few sachets of salt and a bottle of water. You know, and eventually it'll come off. There you go, there's a life hack for you. Smash Spring says, this is my first time writing to you, but I wanted to share my story with you. Sorry if it's long, and I'll try to keep it short. This is very hard for me to talk about. I have been playing Warhammer since 2008, starting with the Assault on Blackreach starter set. In 2009, I met my best friend Joshua. We grew up in the same town in New Zealand, but met in school in Australia, where we currently live. Most weekends, we would play our usual game of Tyranids vs Orcs, and have a fantastic game each time. Fast forward to 2016, we started going to a hobby store called Irresistible Force, and enjoyed playing our games there in the community. It was January the 15th, and Josh and I are going to buy car parts. Irresistible Force is on the way. And we pick up some paints and new models for our armies. Afterwards, we head off to the guy selling his car parts. After chatting for 30 minutes or so, the car guy offers to take us for a ride in his car. He looks at me and says, sorry mate, only 2 seats, but as the back has been taken out. It's fair enough. I watch them drive off and wait. They don't come back for a half an hour, when suddenly I hear a loud bang, thinking they've drove past and backfired. I walk up to see them. The car is completely destroyed. It hit off the road, bounced off a fence, and collided with a tree. I couldn't believe what I was looking at. I kick into help mode. The driver is face down on the road. Wow. And I check to see if he's okay. He's fine. Bloody hell. Lucky guy. That is a lucky guy. That is a lucky, lucky man. Josh is in the car, and others are standing around him. I go and try to reassure my best friend that he's going to be okay. The ambulance shows up, and they pull him out of the car and begin CPR right there. I watched my best friend pass away helpless to do anything. After they put the sheet over him, I sat beside him and held his hand. Okay, this is the heavy one that I did warn you about at the start of the episode. After the funeral, I was given his Tyranids army and a few other items of his. It's now been 6 years, and I still can't bring myself to finish them. When I do, I cry and have flashbacks to that day. I don't know what to do. I can't afford to get it commissioned to finish it, but it can't just sit there unfinished. I feel guilty as I just can't finish it for him. I still go to Irresistible Force with my friends, and when I'm there, I feel like he is there too. Next time I'll write you a happier story. P.S. We went to the court, and the driver walked away scot-free. Okay. Well, that could be... I'm not going to get into that, because there could be very many reasons for that. Perhaps there was a fault with the car, or another driver, I don't know. But, yeah, the only thing I can give you help with is finishing the Tyranids army. First of all, sorry for your loss completely. That is a terrible, terrible, terrible thing to have to go through. And, that's what the channel's here for, right? This is what the Hobby Nightmares are here for. Some of them will be heavier than others. And I don't want to hear complaints or this and that, or that was too much. No. That's what Hobby Nightmares are here for, right? They're here to help people get through some shit. And yeah, we have a laugh along the way, and we have a little bit of a cringe along the way. I've always prided myself on it being a mental health channel. Sometimes I give people a bit of tough love if they need it, but we can't take the rough. Well, we got to take the rough with the smooth. We can't just paper over the cracks. So, in terms of your army, man, I would make sure that it's put in pride of place. So display it somewhere, and it doesn't have to be finished, because a lot of people when people pass away, they tend to leave things just as they were. I'm sure you've heard of the phenomenon of when a parent has their child pass away, they leave their room just as it was, or if they run away from home, they leave the room just as it was. They don't want it touched. That's because it's kind of like a time capsule. They can go in there, sit down, and it's like the kid's there again. That's an incredibly hard thing to let go of, and in all natural, the way you should grieve, it's quite a natural thing. You don't need to let go of it. You can have it there for the rest of your life. It doesn't matter. As long as it's not affecting you in the rest of your life outside of that little area, then it's fine. I would set his army up in pride of place somewhere and never finish it. Just leave it there, right? Leave it there as a memorial and testament to your friend. Maybe even go to Irresistible Force and say, hey, do you guys have a display case? 'Cause I'd really like to do this for my friend with a picture of him in the window. Have his army there and a picture of him. That would get the army away from you, so you're not obsessing over it all the time, and it would give it pride of place somewhere with his picture next to it that you can always go to his little shrine and be like, okay, this is him, he's here, I'm sure they would sort that out for you. If you went in there with an honest, earnest plea and said, look, I'm struggling to get over this, this is what happened to my friend, this is what happened to him, I would like somewhere in the store, even in the window, doesn't need to be in the cabinet, just in a window with his picture, but I can put this army out. It's not finished, but it's just for him, just so people can see it, and it's somewhere for me to come and grieve, sort of a thing. I'm sure they would help you out, and if you need help wording that, let me know. I'll happily record something for you, and you can give it to them as a little request. And yeah, let me know how it goes. And obviously, if you need anything, then just message me, and we can talk. So, a Fire Inside Brad says, my name is Brad. Go ahead and use my real name. Well, since it was the first line of your post, then I guess I have to now. Yorkshire tea. Fantastic. Hello, North. I've got the opposite of a hobby nightmare for you. I recently went to my first ever event for Warhammer. Not official, but nonetheless. It was an amazing experience. I was there for Horus Heresy with a buddy who talked me into signing up. Even had my mum make up some team shirts for us. That's cringe. Oh, Brad. Brad. You're not a bowling team of divorced wives. You can't Let's not have team shirts. Oh my god. You know, I never use the word gay as a slur. But you know when somebody says gay? that was what came into my mind as soon as you said that. I'm really sorry if anyone is homosexual and is like offended by that, but it's still funny. So yeah, your mum made them as well. Come on, Brad. Like, if you're not like in your teens, then this is you're getting this is a slap. Consider this a slap on the wrist. Consider that a warning. Like, you know, or I'm gonna take away some of your man points. Mum, we're going to a hobby event for play our little toy soldiers. Could you make some team shirts for us? You know, I want me and my friend touching each other's penises, please. Sorry, I love you, Brad. I love you. I know you're on. I know you're on the Patreon, man. I'm having a bit of a laugh. Hopefully you got a laugh out of that. Anyway, we were representing our local Games Workshop store. All right, well, it's still a bit weird, but I'll let you off a little bit. I run Dark Angels. Oh, you're bringing the Dark Angels down as well. Don't they? Oh, First Legion, man. First Legion. Don't wear team T-shirts. Anyway, I run Dark Angels and was using the Dreadwing Rite of War. Well, he's Dreadwing, okay. Lists some Contemptors, Compulsory Tacticals, Interceptors and a Rhino, a Kratos, a Spartan, and a Death Star of Terminators and a Medic Champion. And Ferrith Redloss attached. Okay, cool. I like this. But it's a good list. Very good list. I'm giving you back one of your man points. There you go. One thing about this event was how the store sheets were laid out. Not only were we scoring in the game, we were rating each other's sportsmanship and writing down our favourite moments of the game. A really cool way of handling the event, I think. I'm having a cough, so I'm going to have a little drink of my Yorkshire tea. 1 second. Ah, glorious. My first round was against Iron Warriors. It was a pretty standard game. Control some objectives. I ended up getting tabled in about round 3 because of poor tactics, but I definitely did not go down without a fight. It was highly entertaining, watching a 20-man assault squad with jump packs never get to use them for fear of death just from moving. Dreadwing Right does some nasty stuff to the board. Overall, it was a fun game. Okay. I don't see like something not moving because it's frightened of getting killed immediately as a good thing. But okay, right. Anyway, second game was focused on a single objective that dealt damage each round. Initiative was based on a rock paper scissors match between a loyalist and a traitor player between rounds. Great fun. My opponent was playing Hot Sons of Horus, and I got to experience what a terrible drill can do. What a termite drill can do, sorry. The objective sat in the centre of the board, which on our table was a big rock, essentially. We both thought it had a shallow enough slope to place minis, but were very wrong. So, a very ginger game was played. When the termite came in, it ended up getting a disordered strike, so Abaddon and his Terminators wound up dropping in too far to be able to do anything for the rest of the game. I ended up losing the game, but wasn't tabled, which was a first for me in Heresy. My buddy plays Wordbearers and runs Argyll Tal in a 10-man Galvor back squad. Needless to say, they tend to cut through my army like a hot knife. The third and final game was a straight kills match. Loyalists got initiative, since they were ahead in the event. My opponent was running World Eaters lists with a lot of Assault Marines, a Kratos, a Speeder, a Heavy Weapons squad in a Rhino, and a Storm Eagle. His deployment was very quick, since he only placed a Kratos, Speeder, and Rhino. Okay? First 2 rounds went by quick. It was mostly our Kratos trading shots, but he also took up my Rhino, which my Spartan ended up on top of, since the rest of the time it was alive in a very humorous fashion. Round 3 is when the pain train came in. Saw a good chunk of my army go down to melee, naturally. A big thing for scoring this game was killing the enemy warlord in melee with a challenge. So, we were both eagerly awaiting Khan and Farith facing off. I managed to overwatch his butchers with just bolters and took up 2 of them before they even engaged. But this is when the bloodbath occurred. Yeah, that's going to happen. Khan challenged Farith, and they had the initiative, the same initiative, so the blows were simultaneous. Farith managed to get off 3 successful wounds in Khan, which was enough to kill him. And Khan's weapons were instant death on Farith. So they went down in what was coined on the score sheet as glorious displays of blood and anime. Following that, my Terminators managed to kill off his remaining butchers, which blew me away. In another hilarious moment, my Tacticals ended up charging his Rhino with chain bayonets and actually managed to kill it. I love that. That's one of the best things of Warhammer, is like charging a tank with melee weapons and destroying it. It's kicking the shit out of it until it explodes. Our score ended up being like 14-12, with a victory being mine. Needless to say, as someone with single-digit victories between 30k, 40k and Age of Sigmar in the last 2 years, I was elated. There's nothing better than a guy who never wins finally getting his moment to shine. And then the results of the event came to light. My game was the last to turn in their sheets. I stood eagerly awaiting to hear if victory went to the loyalists or traitors. The gentleman running the event reads over the scores. 171 to 175, with loyalists coming out on top. My score had won the event. This was huge for me, for reasons as stated above. Needless to say, I went home that night a very happy man. To add on to that, I ended up winning a raffle for a Tempestus Scion Start collecting box, which only cost me $5 for tickets. I was able to enter my home with my head held high and a proper victory under my belt, which doesn't happen very often. Hope you have a wonderful day, this holiday season everybody, and have a good day, Northern. I can also send pics if requested. The Spartan chilling on top of the Rhino is a right treat to see. Yeah, send it over. Send it over, man. That'd be really, really cool. Alright, so Hellcat64 says, hello North, I love your stories. I too have worked at a game store. I try my best to format this for you, so and no names have been used, so you're safe. You may call me Hellcat64, as I have done. Here is my horror story. Warning, there is triggering stuff and sensitive topics. Okay, so here we go. So, I've worked in my local comic store for 8+ years. The location closed this year, and has been away from the scene for a while. With now being sick and in bed, it's time for me to finally write this. Forgive if it's missing info, as I have subconsciously blocked out some of stuff in the event from my mind. No names due to it being a work event that has all ages. Sorry again for this, as I have condition where writing up my thoughts is hard. Okay. We started our adventure, League/RPG nights, my 3rd year into my time at the store. It was a small crowd which grew to 30+ people. My table ended up being the table that held the problem players, with 6 players at the time. The players themselves don't really matter for the story, except the one we are about to talk about. Again, having a table for the worst players is like, you should spread them amongst the store. Because, not only that, because if they're all together, it just eggs each other on. If they're split up, typical school logic, if you split up the problem kids into different groups, yes, they may bring those groups down a little bit, but the groups will eventually rub off on them, and it almost shame them into behaving, to be honest with you. Especially if it's your spare time. Yeah, those hobbyists will give them a thing, or show them a thing or two. The group was in the middle of a store campaign, based on the COS 5e campaign. I don't know what that is. They were going through that Ember Temple area, the one with the fire statue trap. As the group moved through this temple, soon to be our first death, they came across a room with 2 statues in it. Before I could introduce our star of the story, she interrupts me and shines the light on herself. Here we have our Cat Girl, or who we will call Cat Girl from here on in. Cat Girl, to give perspective on this, was, at the time, 14 to 16 years of age. Okay. This is sadly and scarily relevant. She would come in 2 hours before every event, every night, and bring in a suitcase, like a pulling case for planes, with her, and she would sit at our tables. She would horribly try and flirt with my manager. Okay, that's jailbait. Get rid of that. Anyways, back to the story. As they opened the door, not not a quote, but something along the lines of, you hear the sound of a meow, which she meows to herself in person, and a slim, beautiful figure slides down the statue. Her ears perk and her tail wags a bit. Okay then. Not what I had planned, but okay. And if I'm stuttering, again, as he said in this, it's hard to read, so I'm trying my best to stumble my way through it. They continue on their way, solving problems and stuff, but as the night goes on... Okay, I'm going to have to take a break here, because like, it's getting a bit indecipherable. They continue on their way, so the cat girl's coming down the statue, and she joins the party. They continue on their way, solving problems and stuff, but as the night goes on, she begins her descent into the most cringe girl I've ever seen. Throughout the night, she meows and niars. She talks about this dragon egg she has, and she actually doesn't have one. I say, no, you don't. I looked at her sheet, and her sheet in itself was a crime. 19 to 20s across the board at level 3, 10,000 health, potions, and more. I told her this was not okay. She swears it was just from rolls and her last game she was in. I asked her to remake the sheet next week using the Adventurers League character creation rules. This didn't happen, and the night we learned more about her, which I didn't care much to hear. Okay. Second night. Again, she arrives 3 hours early. She goes off about her life, but this time I'm heading out for food. I offer her something like coffee or tea. Nope. Already, okay. Starting to lose sympathy, man. Like, there is no excuse. Do not offer any of your customers drinks or tea, or food. Just don't. Like, unless you really, really, really know them, and you have something lying around that they might like, don't. Especially somebody like this. They will treat that as an invitation to come and sit on your lap and get you fired. As I do with any of our attendees if they arrive early. We are a very welcoming store. Alright, man, but still. She decides to walk to a store instead in the same direction as me. Okay. This is where the biggest red flag hits. Between the first hour of her arrival and us walking to a store, she tells me something big. That her dad has, how can I say this, struggles with her. And that she didn't do her character sheet because her mum couldn't watch her kid. Right. I'm now really uncomfortable around her as we walk to the coffee store and don't know what to say. I'm a person with a few conditions which makes me very socially incompatible with most people. And this was triggering all my runaway vibes. Dude, this is triggering my runaway vibes. So, yeah. So, they head back to the store from the coffee house with the stuff. During the game, we had some more cringe cat girl stuff. Her talking about how pretty she was, taking over scenes and DMing over me. She's also poorly dressed for her figure. Again, as a reminder, this is a PG-12 setting for families. Near the end, I had many complaints from different tables about her outfit and how she was acting, and the uneasy vibe she was giving off. Flag number 2. Yeah. Third night, the final night. Again, she arrives early. She has been coming by the store, shopping on non-game nights, and has been flirting and chatting up all the male employees. Yeah, she's 14 to 16, by the way, guys. She goes off about her dad again, and how she's been couch surfing and other horrible parts of her life. Again, no care for the customers in the store. At this point, my manager is about to give her the talk. Either she watches how she acts in the store, or we have to ask her not to return. Personally, I felt sorry for what she went through. It's horrible, and was willing to listen if needed, but there's only so much I could do, or should do. I'm not a psychologist, I'm a game store employee. Yeah, okay, fair enough. As the game starts, it goes as it always goes. She makes everybody uncomfortable with her attitude, flirtatiousness, outfit, and acting. This time, another DM came over from a table and told her to watch how she was acting, as there were kids under the table and they were very uncomfortable. At this point, during a break, as I pulled my long-term players to the side, telling them surprise info as the group split. Okay, I asked them about their thoughts. They made me aware she was cheating rolls. She would roll for things, and even before I told her about it, push dice and fudge numbers. I've kept telling her not to, but here we are. Near the end of the night, my table has been really quiet. As I look around, I notice something out of the corner of my eye. The cat girl's boobs are out on display. Oh, for God's sake, man. Her small clothes and her moving around acting, if you call it that, has caused them to pop out. But I heard later that she had pulled them out. I had 2 players at my table that were 10 to 13 years of age. My fuck, how crazy do you have to be? After calming myself down and figuring out how to tell her, I pushed some of my stuff in front of her to cover her and whispered to her about it. She pushed them back into what was called a shirt. After that night, I had enough. The crazy stories of her, they're being strangely sauntering up to me and the manager, or whoever you want to say she was attracted to however you wanted to say she was attracted to us, cheating in game, disrupting tables, and now flashing. I had to ask my store manager to not invite her to come back. Luckily, we didn't see her since. Wow. There are way more finer details that make this worse, but I'm already going on way too long, and I have mentally blocked this from my mind, as you can tell. As this actually scared me. I'm willing to answer any questions people may have as best I can. Thanks for reading. I have way more stories I can tell. So, a couple of things first. Number one, I'm really sorry you had to go through this. This sounds traumatic as hell. Number two, from what she's been saying, a lot of this promiscuous behaviour from somebody who's a teacher, I would normally think this person has been abused in some way. These would be all of the surefire signs of abuse at home or elsewhere. That something's gone on that is not good in this girl's life and she needs sorting out. The fact that she has a kid, or she's told you she has a kid, also is pretty messed up for her age. This is all about boundaries. You let this girl get away with way too much, man. You and the manager both, you let this girl get away with way too much. Right at the start of this shouldn't even have been a story. Right at the start of this story, she should have been pulled aside, saying you either dress properly and act respectfully to other people who do not come back to the store. The next time I catch you being inappropriate, you are not coming back. Simple. Very, very, very simple. This is why a lot of people try and treat Games Workshops and hobby stores like daytime creches when they're not. Like the amount of parents who would drop off their kids to my Games Workshop store and would just leave. You know? Because they treat us like we're doormats because we're nice. Or we're meant to be nice. But there comes a point where you have to pull down the line and say, no, this is a line you do not cross. If you cross it once more, you're gone. But don't want you back here ever again. It seems to me like you and the manager are nice guys and you want to help people and you want people to be okay. But this is one of those times where you have to protect the people around her. If you have 10 to 13-year-old kids around and she's whipping out her tartars, this is not... You are at the point now where if somebody called the police and got the store shut down, I'd be like, yeah, you had warning after warning after warning after warning after warning, and you didn't act on them. So if somebody really did, like, go out of their way and say, look, I'm not having this, I'm calling the police, you know, I'm filing an actual complaint that there are, you know, weird people in this store around kids, mate, that's their right. You couldn't complain. If they shut down your store, you couldn't complain. You've given that girl so many opportunities to scar certain kids for life. You know? Because let's be honest, right? The way that she's acting, a lot of those kids can pick up that something is wrong. They're not stupid. This isn't a girl who's acting promiscuously to try and get a rise out of them. Right? She's acting promiscuously because there's something wrong with her. And you can pick up on that. Even as kids, you pick up on that shit. You know it's not real. And you know it's really weird. And something that you shouldn't really be looking at and you know, having a good time with, you know what I mean? So, yeah. Absolute shit show. Like, hopefully you've learned. And the store's learned, because I'd be honest with you, if I heard a story like that and I've got my daughter and she wants to go to a store, I'd avoid that store. Just in case. Just in case. Now that sounds horrible, but just in case I would avoid that store. So hopefully you've learned. Hopefully you learn that, you know, if it's serious behaviour, one warning is enough, and then you're gone. One warning is more than enough, man. Absolutely, that was horrifying. Anyway, thank you for watching Hobby Nightmares. We are way past the half an hour point at this point in time. Love you all long time. I will speak to you tomorrow, where we'll be doing more Hobby Nightmares, and on Thursday we'll be doing a 40k rant. And by the way, I have just signed up to do Darktide, to be one of the content creators on Darktide, or I'm trying to anyway. I've put my application in, so we'll see how that goes. And if I do get that, then we'll be doing a lot more Darktide content. If not, I still want to do Darktide content on the channel, because it's going to be really, really, really cool when it comes out. Anyway, love you all long time. Have an absolutely fantastic day, and I'll speak to you tomorrow. Have a good one. See you later.